if you are opposed to the child labor practices of China and the Congo, will you support the legislation introduced by some of our colleagues in the House that would prohibit all imports of cobalt mined using child or forced labor?
I'm sorry, I'm not familiar with that legislation.
Senator Beaudreau, if you could put your microphone so we could just put it over towards you, because I think, there you go, like that. Okay.
I'm not familiar with that legislation. I do agree with you that those types of practices are practices that we need to eliminate from our sourcing of critical minerals.
So you would support a prohibition, you would support a ban on imports in principle of any of these critical minerals that have been mined using child labor?
No, I support working hard to transition away from sources that use those types of practices.
Well, why not ban it? Why not say if it's got child labor in the supply chain, we're not going to import it in this country. We're not going to prop up child. Wait, I'm not done yet. We're not going to prop up child labor in this country or fund it.
I think an abrupt ban would, again, I haven't studied this issue. One of the questions I would ask in connection with a ban like that would be what the impacts, including economic disruption, of such a ban would be.
Well, the impact would make slave labor and child labor extremely expensive. It would make American labor a lot more attractive. That's what it would do. It would incentivize jobs with labor protections in this country. Shouldn't we want that?
Again, I haven't reviewed that legislation. I don't know what the impacts of it would be. I agree with you that getting reliable sourcing that does not associate with those types of practices should be the goal of the United States.
But you can't agree that we should ban it?
Again, I haven't studied the legislation. It's hard for me.
Well, then what, I guess, let me just ask you a broader question. What steps are you taking to decouple American mineral production from slave labor then?
Slave labor is completely illegal in the United States, has been since the 19th century. And so the domestic sourcing in the United States is preferable over activities like you're describing in the Congo.
But yeah, obviously. But we are reliant, as you and I talked about in our first round of questioning, we are heavily reliant on supply chains that is shot through with slave labor and child labor in China, in the Congo, elsewhere. So my question is, what are you doing to decouple us from those supply chains? You won't support a ban on child labor, so what do you propose then?
This was the purpose of the interagency working group that I chaired. This is the entire thrust of the report that we issued earlier this month, is how do we increase the reliable sourcing of these materials. I think Dr. Yergin makes an excellent point about refining as well, to decouple, again, our reliance on sources that involve practices that are abhorrent to us.
Well, all I can say is, I don't know why it makes any sense to be shutting down critical mineral supply chains in this country, shutting down mines in this country, mandating further reliance on China and other overseas supply chains that are dependent on slave labor and child labor, while workers in our country are facing the loss of their jobs.